Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack. We also have
Calvin Ellis, ready to rock.
today is the crossover you never wanted or asked for, but they're super popular. So with the Marvel and DC after 20 years is doing it. Batman versus Deadpool in the style of what the I think the first crossover that had immediate crossover by the other company. We'll have two of them. We'll have Deadpool Batman, Batman Deadpool, just like Batman Spawn and Spawn Batman. What
Why?
about,
We didn't need that crossover either. Why?
we really didn't need the Batman Spawn. Um,
You know what was a better crossover? I just read it again recently,
what was that?
and I would never have imagined this. Superman Savage Dragon.
The DC one, right?
Yeah, I would never have imagined that. I just said, I think you mentioned it. I said, let me go back because I probably read it years ago and I have no recollection of this crossover at all. So I go back and I read it. I was like, oh wow, they actually tried. They actually tried with this one. They brought the new gods in, and it was like, okay, they tried to go with the angle, the cop angle, so they could have some connection with the Savage Dragon. Because I was like, otherwise, I don't see the need for these two guys to interact at all. But I was like, oh wow, they really tried to make something happen over here. And I have to admit, it was an enjoyable read. The DC one. The other, I did not go back and read the Image Comics one, but and I don't know if I ever will. But I went back on, based on the conversation I had with you. I was like, oh, okay, so that could work. But I just think there are other characters that you could easily get more out of. The problem for me isn't Batman, it's Deadpool.
Yeah.
That's the problem because almost even Spider-Man is pretty much like a straight man next to Deadpool. This guy is a he's just okay, I'm gonna crack wise, from start to finish at the end of the day. So why not put him with a character where that might actually be difficult for him to do? The character from DC that jumps to my mind initially is someone like the Creeper, but unfortunately, the Creeper is not that popular. So probably it probably would not happen, even though I would rather see something along those particular lines, or Deadpool and Mr. Mixelplick or something. Ugh, but Batman's popular, Deadpool's popular, so why not? Hey,
Well, I mean, there's also like to have the mix of what the original was, like having Superman and Spider-Man, even though they had their job situations were similar, their powers and their power sets were very different, and then obviously Batman Hulk. Like it's not until we got which was originally I think Shooter wanted X-Men Legion, and then DC was like, no, we're going with the Titans, and then we were going to be JLA Avengers. But then I think years after that, some of them had different mixes of things and some similar. Spider-Man, Batman, Spider-Man, and all the other ones they did. But you're going to listen to what it is that's in this article. I'm going to tell you about this, and we might chime in from time to time. Here we go.
Batman and Deadpool will come together this fall in the first official Marvel DC crossover in over 20 years, with Grant Morrison, Greg Capullo, and more all-star creators on board. It's been over 20 years since Marvel and DC published an official crossover comic, but the wait is now over as the two venerable publishers will join forces this fall for a pair of one-shots that bring together Batman and Deadpool, two of the most popular superheroes of all time, for their first ever meeting.
All right. Since my partner isn't going to say nothing, Deadpool is not. I don't care what Ryan Reynolds tries to do, that he's fighting good guys. I will never see Deadpool as a good guy. He is a mercenary, and that's about it. And he is, I don't think there's anything that much redeeming for him. He's just a mercenary. But at the same time, does a lot of jokes. He got some cool weapons and that sort of thing. Actually, Ryan Reynolds did his best to soften him up because he did so much trying to have him having a sweet voice to his insanity which is slightly different from what's in, because instead of saying, he wants to team up with Wolverine, and Wolverine doesn't want to have anything to do with them, and then Wolverine insults him in the movie, say, "We're gonna fight." So it doesn't say, he doesn't just try to kill him. He's hurt, and so it's a very what Ryan Reynolds did was do a lot to make him nicer for the audience. Whereas, I mean, I don't know if the fans necessarily needed it, but I think that guy from what's his name, but your brain noticed that he was doing it, slowly making him huggable and level while he's cutting heads off and stabbing people in the butt with Wolverine's claws. But anyway, let's keep going. Sorry.
And if that's not enough, Marvel and DC are enlisting a who's who of all-star writers and artists for the one-shots, including legendary Batman creators Grant Morrison and Greg Capullo, both known for their extensive and transformative work on the Caped Crusader. For the first one-shot, Marvel's Deadpool Batman #1, writer Zeb Wells is joined by Capullo on art, while DC's companion piece, Batman Deadpool #1, will be written by Morrison with art by current DC superstar artist Dan Mora.
All right, this is the other problem. Zeb Wells is not connected in any way to any of these characters.
Who cares?
That's the thing is, like, they're already big enough names. You could get anybody to write this. I get you have to have a hot artist, but I really wish you have Dan Mora doing 2 or 3 regular series. Why up his stock doing this crossover? Now you're gonna get priced out of DC.
Well, no, he's been doing this for a while. He's not getting priced out of DC. He's at home at DC, and I love Dan Mora's art, so I don't care. More Dan Mora, the better.
You put him on this thing that's gonna sell like hotcakes.
Yeah, of course it is.
He's gonna be like, well, how he's gonna definitely deserve. And then once he sees if this one does better than the other one, because he's and the thing is, you don't necessarily need Grant Morrison doing it. I don't know if Grant Morrison should be writing. He has a connection to Batman, yes. He has no connection to Deadpool, so it's like you get anybody to do this thing. With the 2 artists they have.
Well, the whole idea, if they're doing this, we know why they're doing this. It's for the money. So what are you trying to do? You're trying to ensure the money. So you ensure the money with the characters. You ensure the money with the artist. You ensure the money with the writer.
With the characters.
What characters?
Deadpool and Batman.
That's not enough. We got to ensure that cash. Okay? Wait till they start talking about the variant covers. All 18 of them. For 2, I'm surprised you let the other one go. This is a one-shot, right? How do you have 2 one-shots? Right there. It's for the money. Don't get upset. It's for the money. We know it's for the cash.
Yes, but the thing is like
and if you're angry now, just wait till this guy keeps talking. That's why I've been keeping my powder dry.
So think about it like this, right? It's like I think I think Byrne was going back to Marvel or something, and they were trying to figure out what gimmicks they were going to do. This and he was like, look at the press. I'm the gimmick. The gimmick in this is Batman and Deadpool. You don't need 3 and 4 more gimmicks of the hottest DC artist right now, Dan Mora, the hottest artist that was at DC and Marvel, Greg Capullo, one of the hottest writers ever, Grant Morrison, one of the most imaginative minds, which is not going to be used at all for this story. And you have Zeb Wells, who's hot on Spider-Man.
Well, see, the question becomes, how much money do you want to make? Do you want to make some of the money? Wow. Do you want to make most of the money? Or do you want to make all of the money? I think they're answering that question for us. And yes, there will be second printings, people. Count on it.
All right, let's keep going.
After writing Amazing Spider-Man for 60 issues, I told Marvel I needed a break. Marvel told me I could do that, or I could write a comic starring Deadpool and Batman with the best Batman artist of our generation.
All right, cut.
Needed a break.
Finally, set it on fire.
What the hell was that? You can take a break. It sounds like some god. This sounds like some Godfather stuff. Like, we're gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. You can take a break, or you can do this book at the end of the day. Not, hey, you can take a break, and when you come back, we got this book waiting for you. Terrible, just terrible at the end of the day. No, that part was, oh, I can't believe they said that. Anyway, let's keep rolling.
Wells states, in Batman, we found someone who has even less time for Deadpool's antics than Wolverine. But a city-wide threat from the Joker makes strange bedfellows.
Oh my God.
Literally, if Deadpool had his way. It's been a blast letting Deadpool loose in Gotham City and watching what happens. Am I dreaming? This crossover is likely to be the high point of my career. And I've had a great career, Capullo adds.
I can't stand when he talks like this. When he was doing Spawn, and Greg Capullo was doing, he did X-Force, and Bob Harris was struggling, saying, I don't want X-Force, I want X-Force to be successful. I don't want it to beat the X titles. So he's already trying to handcuff Greg Capullo when there's a chance that he could have beat out the Kubrick brothers doing the X-Men.
Why would this be the high point of his career?
That's the thing.
Isn't the high point of his career like the run he did with Scott Snyder on Batman? Or is it something else?
Yes, that would be it. That would be the high point. The thing is the thing is that, you know, there's nothing to sneeze at doing, like, what was it, possibly 80 issues of Spawn, you know, and he only decided to leave because he was like, well, I got to do something different after that. But he did 80 issues of Spawn, but at the same time, he didn't understand that he could have been or should have been the next guy. But while he was doing Spawn, he was like, hey, I would love to do the Fantastic Four, but though that book doesn't have sales. And it's just like, you make the sales. You're the gimmick. Capullo, this isn't the high point of career. They're lucky to have you doing this. Yes, it would be successful, but as Cal's saying, it would be more successful with you. And especially DC. The thing is, Scott Snyder was a big deal. He was a big deal at DC at the time he was giving Batman. And DC, with words from McFarlane saying, hey, you get Greggy, but that's how he talks. He gives you kind of a nickname. Get Greggy, don't give him a lot of plot. 3 pages is all he needs. And DC is like, we got one. And they go to their top guy and say, Scott, don't give him a lot of plot. He doesn't need it. You can simplify your plot. And Scott Snyder got bothered, and he said, I usually do 22-page plots. Here's a 48-page plot for Capullo.
You can't go to the writer and tell him not to write.
But then Capullo said, hey, a lot of this stuff going to get in the way of some of the visuals. And then he was like, yeah, this, that, and the other. And it's like they're arguing on the thing, and he says, and my mother says, he said, I think Capullo said, oh, he's talking about all of his accolades. And Capullo said, oh, your mother must be proud. And he said, yes, she is. Not really, it was a dig. And at some point, as the books were coming out, and then the thing was blowing up, and even though Batman had some hot periods, this is when it was going to solidify Batman as like one of the top things, as you were mentioning with the Quarter Owls. Then they were like, Snyder could see the forest for the trees finally. He could finally see, see the trees now. He's like, oh, okay, let me calm it down. So I'm going to give him 6-page plots. I can see he doesn't need much as far as to tell the story, and I don't need to, and some of this stuff can be like simplified. I don't have to kill him with the overhead, the Alan Moore type of plot, type of deal. So, but I'm just saying, all to say is that I think Capullo is saying something like that is like I don't agree. I think, as you mentioned, the Batman stuff, I think he was, he's always been a talent, that sort of thing. So whatever he goes, if he would have, the fact is that he was doing monthly comics on Batman, and Marvel was offering him X-Men versus Avengers versus X-Men. That means you are already the top talent. So you're the guy. So anyway,
Some of my earliest work, many years ago, was on X-Force, so Deadpool and I go way back.
oh, I will say I hated Deadpool when Rob Liefeld. I was like, I don't see it. I don't understand why they like he, I didn't put the connection that he was, who's that guy? Deathstroke the Terminator. His costume was similar to a anti-hero that was in the Alpha Flight, but she was a female and she had a sword, but it was a one atom length size sword, and but so that was the only thing, and it's like Rob didn't really kill it in the storytelling. I think it's like Deadpool, X Force 14 or something like that, when it's Cable versus Deadpool. That was when it was like I can see it now. I can see it. This makes now he looks cool. Now it's like a big fight. He can show what he did. If you look at the Rob Liefeld story, I understand them saying he was at his beginning of his career. I was hoping he'd get better, but the storytelling was so bad. I was like, I don't get it. It's not clear. Capullo killed it. So yes, he did. So I had forgotten about that. So he is returning to Deadpool. Let's go to the page before we get back to. So yeah, we get this drawing. He just recently did the Spawn, Batman Spawn by who's that? Todd McFarlane. I will say, Todd McFarlane. Not to say that he's turned into any of the classic writers, but he's gotten better. He's learned a lot more in his years in doing 300 Spawn books. But we have Capullo doing Batman. So all right, so yeah, he is the artist that's done both of them. So I wasn't drawing that connection. I still think it's a cash grab. I think you could just have done one, but DC, but Marvel now it's like we're sharing. So we keep the money on one, you keep the money on the other, and we never republish it. No, actually, no. I guess obviously, Ty McFarlane worked it out, so they got to republish the other ones after that. So let's keep going.
More recently, I spent 10 plus years drawing Batman at DC. The idea that I get to do a crossover event with Deadpool and Batman. If I am dreaming, please don't wake me. I don't do many comics these days, but there was no way I could turn down the chance to work with Dan Mora again, one of my all-time favorite artistic collaborators. And definitely no way I could turn down Batman and Deadpool, says Grant Morrison.
Do you remember when they worked together first? Dan Mora and Grant Morrison?
Dan Mora and Grant Morrison?
Yeah. We have to figure that out.
Green Lantern?
Maybe it's something to check out. I know that Liam Sharp, but Liam Sharp isn't always a monthly guy, so maybe there's a fill-in that he did. Yeah, that would make sense, but I'm not sure. But I would have to figure. We need to figure this out. So let's see what's going on.
Expect fourth wall-busting mayhem, owls, blood, blades, and at least one giant typewriter.
Okay.
It wasn't a DC comic.
Okay, all right.
It was, do you remember who published Claw? Was that Image?
No, that's, I think that was Legendary. Claws? Or maybe it was Image. I mean, I'm thinking another thing he did. Maybe you're right.
Claws.
Image. Probably was Image.
Klaus, like Santa Claus. It was Claus. For a second, I was thinking Huck. But Huck was, who's that guy? It was that Hitch? I think that's Brian Hitch on that one.
Mm-hmm. So wait a second. Grant Morrison had this guy, and you didn't find something to do with him that was a little more. I don't get it, man. It's like who's that? Doug Mensch and who's that guy? And Paul Gulacy or Doug Mensch and what's that other thing? Kelly Jones. Like, I don't see why you already got Dan Mora in the pocket.
You got Dan Mora in the pocket. You don't want Dan Mora in the pocket. You want the money in the pocket.
So you're taking him doing your Santa Claus stories with one of the guy who's going to be the next the next big comic artist. You got 4 or 5 of these Claus graphic novels or miniseries turned to graphic novels, and then now it's like I don't know. In my mind, it's kind of like I know who is it? I know Todd McFarlane probably wanted to sign up Brian Michael Bendis to be an image partner, and then he went to Spider-Man, and Todd lost it. So he was like, "Oh, Marvel really got one from us. We wanted to do that." So I think when Kirkman was happening, that's what happened. But when I'm not saying he's not Kirkman. He hasn't created all this stuff like Kirkman, but he's like the next guy. And you had the next guy. Why don't you say, what are we going to do next? That's why I bring up Doug Minch. Because Doug Minch was working with Galassi on, what's that thing? On Masters of Kung Fu. And then he's over he's just coming up with projects and saying, hey, Paul, Galassi, you want to try to do something together? Oh, yeah, I do. He said, hey, Kelly Jones, the stuff you're doing on Batman here is beating the pants off of what you did on Sandman. Let's do some more Batman. And it's like, you keep the connections. I don't see the writers saying, hey, I'm connected to this guy. It would be good to stay in good graces with this guy. And obviously they're working together on this thing, but it's just like, you already got them doing creator-owned stuff. Find something that's a little more, as Jim Shooter with Francis Manapul. Like, you got these guys like this Todd McFarlane buttering up Greg Capullo from Marvel. They're like, we don't want X-Force to be better than X-Men. We don't want to promote Greg Capullo because he could leave like the Image guys. Then you have Todd McFarlane buttering him up. And actually, at some point, when he wasn't drawing after issue 100, he was still finding ways to throw money at Greg. He's like, Greg is a national resource. and Greg is like, now wait a second, I'm not doing any work. I was a monthly guy. All right, I'm doing some, doing design works and toy things and this, that, and the other. I want to get back to drawing. And then he slowly, after the the Haunt book didn't work out. He did catch the artist bug again, and he said he was going out and that sort of thing. But that's a thing of saying, you got the next guy. I'm doing as much as I can to keep him. I'm sorry. I just, you're at the ground floor of one of the hottest artists. Thank you for bringing up who that was so I could go on that rant. I apologize.
This is more than I ever imagined I could do in my career, and it is a huge honor to be part of this crossover. It doesn't happen too often, and I'm a huge Deadpool fan, states Dan Mora. When I first worked with Grant, I didn't know what to expect, but it was an incredible team-up. I always hope to work with Grant again, and working on Batman Deadpool is like a dream come true. Grant and I working together on this once-in-a-lifetime project is going to be such a fun experience. As stated, Batman and Deadpool will go up against none other than the Joker, who may just meet his match in Deadpool's wacky ways. There's also a whole slate of backup stories in each one-shot written by some of the top creators in the biz, though their names have yet to be revealed. The story kicks off in September 17th's Deadpool Batman #1, followed by Batman Deadpool #1 in November.
So, I didn't know that they worked together, so, okay, that kind of makes sense. But,
It makes sense.
It makes sense at least say, no, it would make more sense if they would do something on their own together. But,
This makes sense. Right. Yeah. Batman teaming up with the Punisher made more sense. And somehow the Joker surviving made no sense. Now we've got, why is the Joker in this? There's a better villain to use. Why is the Joker in this? But again, now I answered my own question. It's about the money. And do we want some of the money? No, we want all of the money.
Well, that's the thing. I think sometimes when you're writing this stuff, and you're saying, well, we want to have all the big hits and have the Joker, and then you say, well, what's going to be more of a challenge for, both? And it's like, let's throw in Clayface, the one with, where what's the name can't kill him. This name where with the Joker. That's the thing. The hard part with the Punisher, Batman Punisher was really good. The only problem was that um, in my mind they got to the part where what's his name just pulls a gun on him, and he's like, "Oh, you're not laughing." And it's like, do something a little more inventive with the Joker. Don't just get to a point where Batman has to stop him. Have him drive. What's if Joker was Punisher's villain? The answer to it is not that the Joker just dies, and that's the thing that the comic books and the editors is like. You have a character that's too cool to kill. You can't have the hero, the one stopping him. Do something that really messes with the Punisher's head. And the same thing when someone was talking about who's that guy? Hitman was going to Arkham Asylum. He's going to kill the Joker, and he comes to kill the Joker, and there's some sort of monster there. So I think Garth Ennis kind of wrote himself out of a paper bag. We had nowhere to go. But in my mind, you have Hitman, who's a telepath, going into Arkham Asylum. He's gonna be reading the craziest minds out there. He should just not kill, just run out, be like, this is too crazy. This is too crazy for me. I can't do it. I don't know how to. You can't pay me enough money to be in Arkham Asylum anymore. That's the story I would want to see, but
Batman.
Hmm? But
no, they shouldn't use the Joker. They should use Batman.
But he's not a villain.
Doesn't have to be. He's Batman. He can make a whole bunch of mess. God. The whole
I think
the big aspect. What's the big aspect of Deadpool's character? The big aspect of Deadpool's character is not just the splatter stuff, but it's also the humor. You can get a bunch of mileage. You can get a bunch of mileage with Batman, and then you can get like little because they have like the little imp too. Like what's the name? Widow Wade. You can get him in the story too. And then Batman still gets to play straight man, but he gets to play to both of them at the end of the day. But I guess they're going for a serious story where it's going to be again. My approach would be totally different. If I got Deadpool, I'm not using, if I had Deadpool, I wouldn't be using Batman anyway. But I would probably use Batman. I would get a lot more mileage with him in the story.
Well, in my mind, they have the villains, it seems like, Clayface someone he can't kill, so you can play that up, so you don't just get to the story where Batman has to stop him from killing the Joker. And you should have him, messing with, if he uses the Joker, he should mess with the Joker as much as he messes with Batman, instead of just saying, well, you should kill this guy months ago. There have been people in Elseworlds that made that decision. And at the same time, if there wasn't someone to hold Batman back, either Mike W. Barr or Alan Davis, without Mike W. Barr, would have had the Batman kill the Joker. Because he's pushed him to the brink a couple of times, and he hasn't been like under Mike W. Barr before The Dark Knight. That Batman don't play. He's definitely a detective, but you push him over the line, like try to kill him. He messed with Catwoman, and he said, "I'm not laughing." He's about to kill him, and Joker, Robin's like, "No. Look, we did save everyone else, even though we lost Catwoman."
Yeah, I gotta take a pause. I'm sorry, I gotta take a pause.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in a certain stage on those different writers, they play to the fact that that's what the whole point of even in the animated, that Batman punching the Joker into a smokestack, and then he walks out from the ground level with no problems. It's like if he pushed, it could happen, but at the same time, they want to do stories where he's like, "Oh no,
you can't do that." At least for me, not as a reader, because there have been ample reasons for Batman to kill the Joker. Probably the best one was after he killed Jason Todd, and somehow the Joker either gets away. He always falls off some cliff and lives. So that's not even it's just too disingenuous at this point. If you're gonna kill him, you gonna kill him a long time ago. I don't hear about it now.
Well, you can't have this thing. You can't have him killing, key people in his life all the time, and maiming and raping. Even though
He,
people don't want to say that, and then
he
one,
shot. Well, he didn't rape her. He shot Batgirl, killed Jason Todd, and then he killed Commissioner Gordon's wife. And this dude is still he's still up and running. And the biggest problem I have is, in order to justify Joker's existence, the Joker became an agent of chaos. Like he's not a human being. This dude's not an agent of chaos. He's a homicidal maniac. Okay, he's insane, but he's colorful, and we like the way that this guy pulls off his shenanigans, including his murders. So let's see how he can come up with something new this time. And that's pretty much the draw to him at the end of the day. Morrison tries to say, well, look, maybe I can find something else with him. Like, no, there's no phase of the Joker or anything of that nature. The dude's a homicidal maniac, and he's a gangster. Everything else, butt kiss for me. So if you're gonna do the Joker, fine, have no problem. But please don't get into this whole thing of Joker. This time you pushed me too far. This time,
no. But the thing is, you're looking at it as if they're dealing with it as like new readers, not us that read the books all the time. Every time the Fantastic Four, is this the end of the Fantastic Four? You should be like, no, not. I've seen it too many times. Don't do that anymore. It's like it's a part of the thing, but you know, the, the stuff that they let him do to Barbara Gordon, the pictures and her nude, that's beyond. That's too far, and they should have never gone that far. But they wanted to have it as graphic as possible, and they blame Lean Wen on it. So.
He beat Jason Todd down with a crowbar, and then what is it? And then put him in and blew him up. Okay, and Batman, the last time the two of these guys meet, they're on a helicopter. The helicopter's going to crash. Batman leaps out, and the Joker, of course, just lands. He just lands over there in the Gotham River, if that's the name of it.
Yeah.
No, there's plenty of. I mean, I can't think of anything Bronze Age. But the amount of murder this guy has committed, and the amount of murder he's committed that was so close to home with Batman, and so for now, like, oh, this he might be a little bit. This was too far. Like, it was too far a long time ago.
Well, anyway, the thing is, the hard part for me with this is that when you've done so much. And we have Dan Mora doing so much work with Grant Morrison in this Klaus thing. I don't know why they're not trying to do their own. Like, hard part is Grant. Was it Mark? This is Mark Miller did what he did. Mark Miller did what the Image guys did. But he did it in the sense where he was like, I'm going to give you some marketable pastiches of characters. Where the Image guys did pastiches, they did stuff that people could really connect to, and he was able to sell his whole catalog to Netflix. And now he's doing it again, possibly with the same people, creating more new characters, crowdfunding it, and probably Netflix is like, oh, we're gonna buy this new series of comic books, and but we got his old stuff on the shelf. So we forgot he's got his old stuff on the shelf. I feel like Grant Morrison's a name where he could come up with something that's a little more marketable to do, rather than trying to take a classic and kind of invert it, that sort of thing. But just to say that maybe, when you have Dan Mora in your pocket, not saying he's in your pocket, but you're working with him, he wants to work with you. Keep him.
In the pocket.
Keep him. Do some more stuff. Not now. He's the man at DC. Like, isn't
Dan Mora is like
in Justice League Unlimited or something like that?
No, Dan Mora is like the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. of DC Comics right now. I mean, his art is so recognizable with DC. It's very much the same as I remember with well, everybody who's in the know knows about Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and the design guide that he put out. It's like that, where okay, you can recognize all these characters are recognizable based on the way that he's rendered them, and Dan Mora is right in line with that as of right now. Everybody loves this dude's art. I'm pretty certain Marvel would love to have him. Let's see how you do these guys over here. Probably look just as good if he hasn't done anything for them already. So he's firmly, I mean, he's firmly in the pocket, and he's probably loving it. He's probably loving it too. So I don't see any reason for him. He's probably going to be firmly there. But uh, I
Jim
mean,
Lee
we
was
already discussed
firmly
this.
at Marvel. No
Huh?
person is safe.
Say again?
Jim Lee was firmly at Marvel. Nobody is safe. You
Jim,
can't
Jim Lee
success
was
leaves.
firmly at Marvel, and then came firmly back to Marvel. And then once again, once everything looked right, what did he do? He went and firmly entrenched himself at DC.
I'm saying, but that's the lead to the bigger thing of being like, okay, I put my toe into Marvel, and Marvel can say, you know what we got for you? We got X-Men, was it X-Men Micronauts too? It's like, okay, I've always wanted to do that. I've never said it, but yes. So
Well, I no, I don't. I just don't see that happening. Not for Dan Moore. The work is just too consistent at this point. This guy's done within the last 4 years. The work has just been too consistent. The run on Superman is excellent. I just don't see that happening. But I would rather. I love his art. I'm going to buy it, but yeah, I would rather see it on something else.
that's what I'm saying. You got to do a monthly stuff. And the thing is that when you mentioned Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, like he was firmly at DC, but at the same time, he didn't want to do superheroes. I'll give you a cover. I'll give you 2 issues here. What I want to do, which was gorgeous stuff, it was like almost the pro's favorite book is Atari Force, some Western stuff. Yeah, like he is clearly he was the next comic book superhero guy. Obviously, why he was doing the style guides that didn't necessarily want to do superheroes. So it was like this guy here, he's doing like monthly. Not hey, I did 4 issues of Marvel. What was it DC Comics Presents? Like Justice League, Superman. Now this is like keep butter them up and keep them well far away from anything Marvel. To be like, hey, they don't really like you. They said this about you. What? You say, well, we did, but we don't care where you go. You can't make what we were making on our titles. Gone. You don't. The editor can turn this left as soon as possible. They couldn't do it. They've done it many a time. But anyway, I hear you. Many last words.
Look out for the variant covers.
The many variant covers.
So wait, well, why don't we make a prediction? Since this is Batman and Deadpool, who do you think like will be coming down the pike next? Like Wonder Woman or Superman?
Oh my goodness. Who? One the who's this going? If that's the other thing, Marvel doesn't have any women to mix Harlequin and who? Who are you gonna put it in? Captain Marvel as a it's not even popular enough for them to do. Who would they put in there?
Wonder Woman and Jane Foster.
No, they're not. Who is it? Jane Foster and
No, they've got you're
Harlequin.
no, you're
Harlequin.
100% correct. They have no one.
Harlequin. Jane Foster. So before she passed, so I don't know. Did she pass? I'm not sure. I know she had cancer. Jane
She
Foster.
passed, but she got better.
Jane Foster as Thor and Harlequin in Asgard. The
Oh
ladies.
wow, that sounds like hot buttered trash. No way.
Ladies romp.
No
Ooh,
way.
ladies
No way.
first. Ladies first. It's
No, I
definitely
mean well,
Harlequin.
the simple I mean, I already know the classic ones that you would probably do, but if they're starting this with like two characters who really have no business being together, which is Deadpool, which is Deadpool and Batman, then I figure, well, if we keep this up, if we try to keep this with characters who really, don't have any business, being together, then who else do we go? Who else do we go with at this point? So I guess Wonder Woman's tough. Yeah, I guess Wonder Woman would be tough. They'll definitely do something with Harley Quinn. She's just the low hanging fruit. She's popular. Uh,
So it's
Superman,
gotta
I
be
have no.
Miles Morales, and somebody from DC. And
Miles Morales and Superman,
they're not gonna do that. It would be
and then they'll do
okay.
that. No, they'll do that. Then they'll do the classic cover with Miles Morales hanging on the Empire State Building while Superman's flying around the corner. They'll do that.
Yeah, we'll see. Um,
Unless you can think of something better. I'm just thinking about, hey, what's going to
and
get you? What's going to
the
get the money?
person on the other side, it should have been Harlequin and Deadpool.
That's true. You missed out, DC. You missed out, Marvel. You heard it from us. Should have been Harley Quinn and Deadpool.
All right, spin a rack.
We're out.
We are out.